Was Andrew Bennett DC Comics' answer to Marvel's Dracula? No, Andrew Bennett's success did not rise to the popularity or influential impact of the Lord of the Vampires. In a way, Andrew Bennett was DC Comics' version of the cinematic Count Yorga, a gothic vampire out of place in a modern setting. However, Bennett did not deliver comic book sales in the way the overtly evil Yorga sold movie tickets for American International Pictures. The DC Universe's new vampire saga had a niche appeal and drew critical appreciation for its excellent storytelling, which saw Bennett accept the role of humanity's savior, a stark contrast to Yorga's evil. Humanity was not all Andrew Bennett sought to save. DC Comics assuredly needed help, horror-wise. The company's horror anthologies retained much of their creepy 1970s quality, but sales figures for books like Ghosts, The House of Secrets, and Weird War Tales declined. The 1981 issues of The House of Mystery drew inspiration from previous serialized characters from the book's history, like Dr. 13, the Ghostbreaker, and the Martian Manhunter from the title's science fiction era. Weird War Tales employed the same tactic when it debuted the Creature Commandos to draw in superhero comics readers. With the Andrew Bennett I, Vampire serial, The House of Mystery developed a classic modern gothic character on a mission to save humanity from his more malevolent undead brethren. While the title would end its many-decade run in 1983, at least it concluded with the critical acclaim Andrew Bennett's exploits brought. Classic horror's last stand. I, Vampire, and Andrew Bennett did not ride the wave of horror comics success. Instead, the undead character sought to save a dying market segment while saving the DC universe from a vampiric menace. The early 1980s ushered in a new era of superhero comics, as sales for caped, cowled, shield-wielding, and web-slinging characters rebounded from the sales slump of the late 1970s. Horror comics, which had been a staple of the publishing landscape since 1964, when issue 1 of Warren's creepy magazine marked the return of sequential art scares to newsstands, had been missing since EC Comics abandoned them and dropped all its books except for Mad Magazine. Marvel and DC Comics produced numerous incredible horror titles when the Comics Code's restrictions on the genre became passé. Regrettably, when horror titles returned to the comics landscape, they arrived at a time when interest in classic and gothic horror was waning, soon to be replaced by exploitative fare. Marvel's horror output folded up by the late 1970s, with only the short-lived Tomb of Dracula magazine surviving into the 1980s, and only for 6 issues. DC Comics anthology books trudged along, with the long-running The House of Mystery remaining the flagship collection, one that increasingly relied too far on juvenile plots and dialogue. The 2 stories that appear alongside I, Vampire's Maiden Voyage, can't hide their overly simplistic narratives, especially when following such a far better written story. Andrew Bennett's inclusion intended to capture older readers who preferred the consistent worlds of superhero comics to The House of Mystery, giving them one short I, Vampire chapter every issue. If nothing else, the character shook up a book that tended to feature some hastily written and illogical tales. An effective debut writer, J.M. DeMatteis, approached editor Len Wein with the concept for a serialized vampire series called Greenberg. Wein wisely suggested giving the series a better title and came up with I, Vampire. With a green light on the former Greenberg, artist Tom Sutton teamed with DeMatteis to produce Andrew Bennett's origin in The House of Mystery, number 290, March 1981. The outrageous cover art by Joe Kubert featured a conventional and seemingly vicious, caped vampire holding a passed-out woman in his arms as a cloud of bats flies behind him. The stunning cover certainly caught the attention of spinner rack browsers and likely attracted the interest of some disillusioned horror readers. The first story, one of 3, in issue number 290, briskly establishes Andrew Bennett as a reluctant vampire trying to stop his former lover, Mary, Queen of Blood, from spreading vampiric mayhem and conquest in the present day. The two were lovers in the 16th century, when Bennett was a reluctant war hero after being bitten by a vampire, a scene reminiscent of the werewolf curse in Marvel Spotlight number 2, February 1972, where Gregory Rusoff is bitten by a female werewolf. Interestingly, the reportedly considered title for Jack Russell's lycanthropic nightmare was I, Werewolf. Was Andrew Bennett